Because so many people who apply to IIMs as well as ISB, they are more curious about understanding these aspects.
Yeah. So a lot of actually a lot of my batchmates have had admits from IIMs and even like LBS, NCR. A lot of folks over here who have converted those colleges are at ISB too.
Mm-hmm.
So look, the culture at ISB I think is like extremely how do I say this, surprising at first, because you come from a very monotonous and well set life into a place which is just all the time on. So you
Okay.
don't get a lot of time to be off at ISP because there's always more things happening than you can manage.
Mhm.
So be it studies, be it cultural events, be it like social events like parties, be it outings, there's always like 10 things happening, and every day you have to make a conscious choice कि आज मैं ये 5 चीजें करूंगा, नहीं तो मेरे को सोने को नहीं मिलेगा. So that is one aspect of looking at it. The other aspect of looking at it is the kind of exposure you get here. I don't think I have ever got in my life in such a like a controlled and bustling environment. So I've, from a studies point of view, I think because I was an engineer, so I didn't ever have a proper exposure to formal business education. So subjects like finance, operations, marketing, sales, I studied these in depth in the last 6 months because I wanted to,
Mm.
because I wanted to broaden my horizon.
Mm.
And so that was really good. Then I met basically people of all calibers, of all varied industries, of different work ex.
Mhm.
So I'm working with people on projects who are like 2, 3 years into the job industry, and I'm also working with people who are married and have kids and have been working for 10 years.
Okay.
So that whole spectrum, you learn how to deal with different people, you learn from their experiences. So I
Mhm.
think for me, it's been probably the biggest learning experience of my life. And first few months, it takes time to get up to speed, but after that, you like really start loving it.
And how do you manage to stay so active on social media platform like LinkedIn? Along with this, ISB is so stressing out,
Yeah.
you know, curriculum schedule. That's
It's a challenge. I'm not gonna lie. In fact, there's like a running joke going on in my batch that whenever they open LinkedIn, they see my profile or some post of mine.
uh,
तो पूरे ISB में भी यही joke चल रहा है. But I look at it from a different angle. Look, I think I'm very bullish on the creator economy. We've actually studied a lot about this at ISB as well, how people are monetizing the creator economy. So really think it's worth my time if I can spend like even 30 minutes every day just like building my brand online.
mhm.
Because later down the line, you never know what kind of revenue streams might open up, what kind of opportunities might come your way. And like just to give you an idea, every single recruiter at ISB asks for your LinkedIn profile. So
Okay.
that is how deeply it has penetrated into the B school ecosystem. Like
Okay.
every CV of an ISB student has a LinkedIn profile at the top.
Yes, they do.
So it's like a plus point only, I think, and it will probably pay dividends in the future. That's how I look at it.
Let me tell you a secret. You have been really that motivating that there are a couple of students in ISB who have gone through and they were not so active. So I just keep telling them, look at Nishant. And then later they started posting something. I just kept saying that, see, look at Nishant. He has over 13,000 followers, a good network of people on his LinkedIn, and you should also just expand that network because this placement process is very, very challenging and very, very competitive right now, whether you are in ISB or IIMs or anywhere. Especially, it has been very challenging last year. I don't know how exactly it's going to pan out this year. So it's always good that you actually start expanding your own network, and you have been doing it phenomenally well.
Yeah.
So you have been kind of a benchmark that I've been using to motivate people to actually fall into your shoes. I just keep saying, although I don't have that much followership, but I just keep saying it's a motivation for me as well. I also have become so much active. You must have
Yeah.
observed it.
No, it's great, and thank you so much for the kind words.
It is the reality, and I think that everybody who's listening here should actually take this cue that it's very, very important to just show your presence as well on LinkedIn. And
Yeah.
I'm really surprised that there are so many younger people who are far more active than the people who actually earlier used to be active. For example, I've been on LinkedIn since I think 2008, and I have such a small network of people on LinkedIn. That's the other part, that I've been a spectator. Every day I just open that network. I keep checking that who is posting what, but I'm just a spectator. I'm just seeing that what exactly everyone is doing. I just use that to stop people. But using it is something that I'm learning from people like you. So that really is a great thing.
Yeah, yeah, no, definitely, and I'll touch upon it surely as we go through the session. So we can begin with the structure
Yes.
that you have planned, sir.
Yes. I think we will quickly just begin first. There is a presentation as well I have prepared. I will
Sure.
just quickly hmm, share that as well. Share what exactly the structure we are going to follow, and then I'll just start following that thing. You know, give me one quick second. Uh, now, now. So there are a number of questions that actually I have received regarding so many other aspects of the ISB admissions as well. But I think that in the beginning, I'll just say that we will only touch upon those questions which are not related to ISB interview prep only when there is a time left out, right? So the structure that I'm planning to follow, which is going to be followed in this workshop, is that first of all, we'll just try to understand that what exactly is the format of this stage 4. According to ISB, this is actually stage 4. The stage 1 starts with the submission of the application, then there is a status change, then there is a shortlisting, and then now the shortlisted candidates have been invited for the interview. The stage 4 actually includes two parts. One, you have to write 2 essays, and secondly, you have to just present yourself for the personal interview as well before the ISB interviewers who happen to be experienced alumni. So the second part of it will be learning effective essay writing strategy so that you can actually ace that part. Now, ISB is going to make it more structured from this year onwards, and it's going to pay more attention to it as well because of the seriousness that they are paying towards this particular aspect of the admission. And third, we will just discuss a few interview tips, and then we will go to the question and answer. So we will start with this process, but I think before I move on, I just want to first of all introduce Nishant to everyone. And also the reason that why exactly I have invited Nishant. First of all, thank you so much, Nishant, for sparing time out of your busy schedule. So Nishant is actually a student who joined ISB in 2025. He is the student of class of 2026. And the best part about the Nishant, which distinguishes him from so many other people, is his interview skills, right? Those are the skills, I just call them outstanding skills, which I understood when I actually took his mock interview at one stage. And therefore I felt that for this particular workshop, he is the most apt person. The background for others to understand that why exactly I call him also outstanding in the interview skills, that Nishant applied to ISB in round 3 with GMAT score of 665 and with just 2.5 years of experience in hand. Yes, there is something very specific about the kind of experience also that he carried, because it is really valuable experience. I think he will touch upon that experience part himself. But with these things, that means we see that for ISB, GMAT 665 is a very fine score, not an outstanding score, because there are so many people this year applying with even in excess of 700, right? And people in excess of 700 score also have not been able to convert ISB. There are people who always keep thinking that ISB is now promoting candidates with greater amount of experience in the range of 4 to 5 years. But with 2.5 years of experience, he actually qualified that stage in round 3. So that, in my opinion, makes it very, very exemplary kind of an achievement. That's the reason I feel that Nishant is the most apt person for leading this kind of workshop for everyone's benefit. Now, Nishant, it's up to you. Please, you can carry it forward. You can introduce yourself in your own way, because if I made any mistake, please correct me.
No,
And then
no,
I
that's a very, very flattering introduction. Thank you, sir. But yeah, look, I come from an engineering background. So I went to DTU, I did my undergrad, I passed out in 2022. My work ex has been over a year and a half in product management, and then a year and a half I ran my own startup. So that was the work ex that sir was referring to, which is quite valuable to a B school nowadays. And yeah, my ISB prep journey actually started way back when I was in DTU. I applied for the YLP program, but I couldn't make it in that year. And so after I gained some work ex, I applied again last year in round 3. and the entire GMAT plus essays plus interview process for me was cramped up into, I would say, 3 to 4 months because of some other commitments that were going on in my life at that point. And yeah, it was a very interesting journey. I think I learned a lot from GMAT, from the essays. The essays really got me to know a little bit more about myself, and of course the interview prep was very structured. I'll touch upon that as we go across the session, and I think it's a part of the process that you can really master if you put in the extra effort. Because a lot of people think that ISB interviews, because they are with ex-alums, they are with alums, it's a very easy conversation that can go anyway. While the flow of the interview is like that, but you are evaluated still as critically as you would be in any other interview. So even if the tone of the conversation is casual, there is still a lot you can do to convert. And that is what I worked upon, which is what we'll touch upon. So we can go ahead, sir.
So yes, so let me just quickly take everyone through the first part of it, so that first we can touch upon the exactly serious part of this workshop, right? So for everyone, the stage 4, that means this interview round actually encompasses two major aspects. One, you will be given 2 online on-spot essays, and you're supposed to answer them within 20 minutes, and you have to complete both the essays. If you don't complete them in 20 minutes, your time will over, and then the screen will just shut off. You have to carry your laptops to the interview venues if you are taking the interview in the physical mode, and if you're taking it in the virtual mode, once again you will be guided about it. The window will open only for 20 minutes, and there will always be a constant monitoring of your face. You have to show your ID, you have to present yourself. It's exactly like the normal process happens in case of if you're taking a virtual GMAT at home, right? So you have to be present there. If you just move away from the screen, then you might be penalized for that. After several warnings, the computer can completely shut it off and then completely shut you out as well. So this is the first step. And after you are done with that 20 minutes 2 essays aspect, you will be presented for the personal interview. The personal interview duration ranges from 25 to 45 minutes. One thing that I would say is that if your interview is just 25 minutes and not 45 minutes, that should not be interpreted as that your interview was not as good or the interviewers were not very interested in you. You should always understand it is about the richness of your responses and the satisfaction of the interviewers that actually decides what exactly is the duration of interview going to be, right? So these are two aspects. Now, the first aspect starts with these on-spot essays. In these on-spot essays, what exactly are they going to evaluate you on? Are these 4 things? Just understand them first. First is, it's a key evaluation tool beyond the personal interview. The weightage of it is slightly unknown because the ISB says that we keep the process holistically. So there is no exact number assigned to it as such that there is a specific weightage of it. But consider that it's going to be a very useful and instrumental part of your journey, because you already have worked with AI and other helpful tools while writing your essays. So this is actually the time when you have to display your real writing abilities. It is the test of depth and clarity of your thoughts and the written communication as well. I think third point is very important, that it also reflects that how impromptu your analytical ability is coming into picture with the current dilemmas. And with the word dilemma, I would just once again clarify that there are 2 major spectrums in which the questions have come from. We will touch upon that part as well. And you also have to display your logical reasoning and articulation while you start writing those essays. Just to make this this thing clearer, that what exactly are going to be the basic themes of those essays. So just keep in mind that they are either going to be behavioral questions or they would be ethical dilemmas. Ethical dilemmas, again, you will understand once you see the examples. For example, these are a few questions that were asked last year. If you read the first question, someone is being late and taking time off, how would you handle the situation? So again, it's kind of a dilemma that you have to just deal with, treating that kind of a person who is taking time off and is getting late. The second one that was asked with the most number of candidates was, the manager is giving you high value gift, some of your co-workers have accepted the gift already, what would you do? I think Nishant would be able to recall that we discussed this in our mock interview prep, because this was the most
In this question as well, yeah.
Yes. This was the most asked question. And the third one is, a teammate writes inefficient code that may deliver delivery. How would you handle the situation? So some behavioral situational questions and some are ethical dilemma. There are more such samples, I think. we would touch upon those, or I can share those samples with everyone in a different thing. But a very short understanding. First of all, Nishant, you share how exactly people should be approaching these things, and then I'll just add upon in theoretical aspect.
Yeah.
So how
So
should people actually approach these?
I was preparing for this. I followed a STAR approach that worked really well for me. So situation, task, action, and result.
Yes.
And just I practiced, I think, 5 to 10 questions at least with the same approach in a timed manner before the D-Day. And the questions will be of similar type only. I don't think you will really get like a bouncer question over here. It will more be about will you be able to finish it in time, keep your calm, and just type out what is coming to your mind. So practice at least 5 to 10 or even more if you can sample questions and follow the STAR approach. The STAR approach works perfectly for these kind of questions.
Yes. So the STAR approach is once again, Nishant, situation, task,
Situation, task, action, and result.
and results, right? So the same thing I have just represented in the form of this pyramid. That first thing that you have to do is you have to just introduce it. That means this is the situation. You have to introduce the situation properly, and then in the body you have to just explain that what exactly is the task and what exactly is going to be your action. And after that, the result, the conclusion part is referring to the results that you have to present. It should be concise, impactful. You don't have to just go too much into detail. You don't have to be looked biased while taking any conclusion out. It should be very balanced kind of a thing. And you also have to be sure that what kind of time allocation you should make in this. I think this is just a suggestion, although it can vary from person to person. I think that everyone should just spend 1 minute thinking that what exactly could be the aspects that I need to consider. After that, spend some time writing over those aspects that you have identified to write on, and spend last 2 minutes reviewing them, because reviewing is a very important part of it. You feel like that you have written everything correct, but there might be several grammatical errors. In your mind, you are communicating it absolutely accurately, but it might not reach the reader. That is why one of the very important aspects is sparing some time to review the essay, understand whether you have balanced the arguments in favor and against it, and whether you have arrived at the conclusion that is the result very methodically and logically, right? uh, Nishant, can we just take one example and can just discuss how would you exactly approach anything, any topic of your choice, if you just were to approach any?
Yeah, sure. So, for example, the second one, because I recall it better, I think I was asked the same question in my interview, in the part before the interview. So how I would start was S first, so situation. So I would clearly label out the situation that this is what is happening. Some of my coworkers are getting gifts, and I am skeptical if something like this would be unethical or ethical, and then that would sort of be the beginning of how I would describe the situation. Then I would clearly define the task. The task in this case is, do I accept the gift or not? Right. And along with that, I would give my consideration as to why I think in this particular situation, it may be harmful to accept a gift because it may put me under pressure later to perform or give some unbiased opinions, or maybe just having me owe something to someone for no reason could put me under pressure in the work environment. So I would sort of in a better structure, like right now, just off the top of my head, but something like this, I would put down in the T, which is which is the situation task. Yeah, in the task, and then in the action, I would probably put down how in this situation I would not want to take a gift from my manager because I really think that it would be unethical. And again, relay some of the concerns I had earlier mentioned, probably add a couple of more points around how co-workers who have got these kind of results may be under some similar pressures, or I don't know exactly the situation. And then in the result, I would try to convey this, what I have thought about, to the manager in a very sort of easy, nice manner, so that they don't take it in a bad sense. And also, I am not penalized for not accepting the gift. So I think with all of these essays, the key is finding the middle ground. If you can find the middle ethical ground, because most of these questions are like going into ethical or unethical boundaries, gray areas, those kind of situations. So, however nicely you can find the middle ground, I think is the best way to put these essays to bed.
Understood. Understood. So that is very good. Just for the discussion, because this might come up as opinion of someone else as well. If I were to just portray it this way, just evaluate it for everyone. Because when I look this kind of a situation that a manager is giving you a high value gift, some of your co-workers have already accepted the gifts. What would you do? I would say that first of all, I think I would analyze the situation, that what exactly is the culture of the organization, because there are different organizational. The organizations could also be something of the type in which giving out the gifts is actually a way of welcoming someone. So the way I perceive is that first of all, we need to understand whether it's actually the culture of the organization or the gift is being given out. Maybe you are an odd one out, or maybe those people who have been given out gifts are the odd one out, and there is some sort of synergies among those people, that there is some sort of benefit that is expected out of them. And if you feel that it's actually the culture of organization, because in many places, this so happens that there are different ways of welcoming people. So accepting gifts should not be considered as something that might actually incite some sort of benefit that are expected out of you, but also should be evaluated first of all, because you're going to be the part of the organization. So by accepting the gift, I think you would be more receptive to the culture rather than actually being very suspicious about why the gift is being given out. So this situation also should be understood by the person who is being offered a gift, and then the decision should be made. If the organization is such that the gift can be accepted, I think it's absolutely fine to accept the gift. Otherwise, probably humbly declining the gift would be a good idea.
Yeah, this is a good caveat. Actually, I hadn't thought of it right now, but starting with something like this and then saying that, okay, if the culture is so, then so, if the culture is not so, then so, that's a very good approach, actually.
Absolutely, absolutely. So for the audience, I was just trying to make sure that if somebody is thinking on the other line, you should also have very justifiable grounds to justify that.
Yeah.
There is nothing in favor or against. Whether you give this opinion or that opinion, both are acceptable as long as your reasoning is grounded in very ethical practices and being very in a way collaborative, and in a way of harnessing the kind of a culture that you are going to be the part of. Right? You always want to be looked like very inclusive. That ways. Uh, all right. So anything else that you just want to suggest? I think I have some other people to accept, so I'm just searching where to accept those people who have.
Sure. I mean, nothing major from my end. I think this should be the part of the interview process that you are extremely well prepared for and should not have any bumps, because very expected questions, very simple framework to follow. Just make sure that you don't panic on the spot, because कभी कभी होता है ना, under pressure you, I don't know what happens, typing भी गलत हो जाती है कभी कभी. So just
Yes.
practice under pressure. Your typing, your spellings don't get messed up under 10 minutes. That's it. It's just a stress test. It's a light stress test. If you clear the GMAT, I don't think there should be a problem at all.
That's the reason I said that always try to spare those 2 minutes to review it, because in my personal experience, which has been enough long, I have seen that there are always some mistakes when I write. There are always some errors in communication. We think that it has been communicated very properly, while the actual meaning of the sentence is being portrayed in a different way. So it's very important that you just curtail your time into 6-7 minutes and then spend time to review it and then add more value to it by just balancing different viewpoints. Right. So this was the first part. There are different topics that I have. We already have discussed about this slide, that how exactly should you approach. STAR approach is one of the very finest approaches developed by the consulting organizations, I think one of the big fours. So that is an approach that can definitely be followed. It's an outstanding thing. Now, these are some more topics, and I can just share these topics with everyone who is the part of it. Now, coming to the interview questions. So before we discuss specific questions, now what exactly your experience with the interview questions has been? How would you like to describe them in general?
Okay. So I think the interview, first of all, even before the questions, the environment of the interview for ISB interviews is very unique, because you are going to be interviewed by alums who are at least, just take it as a rule of thumb, at least 10 batches prior to which one you are applying for. So in my case, at least a 2016 alum or lower would have, or senior would have taken my interview. And there are usually 2 to 3 panelists. And what ISB does very smartly is, based on your profile, they will map people of your industry to you. So that you do not so that you cannot lie, or you cannot try and say things that are not true. They'll catch it very quickly. So that is one thing. So be very sure everything that you are saying is true. Don't say anything false in the interview. The second thing is that it's a very conversational interview. So there will be no moment where they're like putting you aggressively under pressure or keep cross questioning you if you can't answer any question. That's not what happens in ISB interviews. It happens in a bunch of IIM interviews, but ISB interviews are very different. Coming to the third part, which is the interview questions particularly. I think what they want is, see, on paper, they have already accepted you as a student because they've seen your score, they've seen your essays, they've seen your story, and they're satisfied with it. Now think of it from this point that you are going into the interview to prove your value in person. On paper, you are an ISB student already. You just have to back that up with your in-person interpersonal communication skills. So they'll usually start with a broad question like, walk me through your resume, or how come you applied to ISB this year, or why do you want to do an MBA? How does it fit in within your career track? And then they will drill down into one specific sector that either they have most knowledge about, or that they feel is either the biggest question mark or the most relevant thing in your profile. So in my particular case, again, the starting was very broad with like, why MBA, why now, why ISB, these kind of questions. And then they started to drill down into my entrepreneurial experience. So I would say like 1/4 of the interview was general questions. Half of the interview would be very specific questions about my particular work ex that they were interested in. And the last quarter of the interview would be a little more open. Like, they asked me a question which I was not expecting, which was, Ki, if you don't get into ISB, which B school will you like to go to? And even after I said that, no, I'm only targeting ISB, they were like, no, still, tell me a B school that you will go to if you don't get into ISB. And over there, I used a little bit of quick thinking because I had applied as an aspiring entrepreneur. So I said, okay, I'll target IIM Bangalore or XLRI because I know these schools are the best when it comes to entrepreneurship.
Yes.
So a couple of questions here and there towards the end, you can expect something like this. But overall, it will go from broad to very narrow.
Very good. Okay, so because there are so many other people who have joined in between, let me just once again brief your background. That the experience that you carry initially actually joined in Expedia, and
as a product manager.
You worked there for approximately 1 year as a product manager.
Or 1.5 years as a product manager.
As a product manager. Then you actually started your own startup, which you continued leading for approximately a year.
Yeah, a little more than a year. I think when I applied to ISB, I had around 2 years and 8 or 9 months of work ex.
And for everyone, I think this is one interesting part. At the time when you were applying for ISB and you were being interviewed, you were working as a chief of staff with one of the startups. Yeah. I think IQ.
Yes.
So, okay. So you're saying that most of the interview questions were focused on your entrepreneurial journey and not much on your startup journey as a chief of staff and Expedia. Is that correct?
Yeah, because that was the part of the journey that was most interesting to them. I think that was a part of the journey that they were looking to see in a round 3 candidate also.
Okay.
Because like, if you are getting a round 3 interview and you are making it through, it means that you have an edge in your profile. And they want to drill down on that edge. So even if for other people also who are applying in round 1 and round 2, whatever is the bulk of your profile or the story that you are selling, be extremely well prepared around that aspect. Even if it's consulting or banking or whatever it is, you will be going into depth over there.
Okay. So was your entrepreneurial journey anyway related to your short-term and long-term goal?
Yeah, it was. So this was a question that I got asked in the interview very upfront. What are your short-term goals and what are your long-term goals? And it's important for ISB that the person coming in is very clear, like crystal clear on what they want to do in the next 2 to 5 years.
Okay.
You cannot go in an ISB interview and say that I want to do something in entrepreneurship, but I don't know exactly what to do. I'll figure it out in that 1 year by meeting different people. That is a big red flag. So please don't go with that mindset into the interview. In my case, I was very specific. I had a startup in e-commerce. I had identified 2, 3 spaces
Yes.
where I wanted to build within e-commerce, and I told them about that. Then they asked me the reason behind that. They asked me some industry trends. Ki, why are you targeting this space? I told them my reasoning, and those were my short-term goals. And my long-term goals also were very clear that I want to build a big company in the e-commerce space. I want to generate employment. I want to generate wealth for my family. So I had like very specific long-term goals as well. And I think that is the way to go into an ISB interview. You need to be like very clear about your long-term and short-term goals.
I think I remember the only point of discussion that happened between the two of us was one about the essay, and the second was about this point only,
Yeah.
about the short-term goal and long-term goal clarity of it. Because
Yes.
you cannot have dual short-term goals. Otherwise, they might not like you. So it is very important that you need to have just one short-term goal. Even the panelists understand that they are fluid. Maybe over time they might change. But
Yeah.
at the time, you should have absolute clarity about what exactly you are going an MBA for.
Yeah.
If at the time you do not have that clarity and you are still just jumping the gun because I can do this, I can do that as well, then I think it's not really a good thing to
Yeah.
portray. People might not perceive it the right way. Right?
For sure.
Okay. Okay. Anything else that you recall from the interview experience? Something?
I remember a couple of other like good points from the interview. One was, I think, towards the end, I think it's usually a good sign when the interviewers start talking about their ISP experience to you.
Uh,
So one of the things that I strategically prepared was and a lot of you asked this question as well. What is the last question you want to ask the ISB interviewers before
uh,
you leave the call? Because
uh,
they'll always ask you, do you have any thoughts for us? Do you have any questions for us?
uh,
So I had it in my mind that I want to leave them on a positive thought. I want to leave them with something that will probably only positively impact my application. So I
Absolutely.
very carefully created a question, and the question was that from your time at ISB, what was the number one survival, survival instinct or your survival skill that helped you get through that year? So
Absolutely.
what happens when you ask this question is the person starts thinking about their MBA days. It takes them 10 years back into a moment of nostalgia. They're like, oh, I used to do this, I used to do this. So I asked both of my panelists, like, what was that one survival skill that helped you get through ISB? And they told me their journey. So one of them was like, oh, I was in this club and I really enjoyed the people in this club. And that was like, where I used to go when I used to have my downtime. And then someone else was like, sports was my thing. So it inculcated like a positive feeling in their mind, and that's what I left them with, a positive feeling from the interview. So
Very
that
good.
is something that I manufactured on purpose.
That's amazing because I think we had this discussion that time as well, because every time I suggest people to just, I mean, this is one question which is very, very critical. When it comes to IM interviews, then you have to ask a different kind of a thing because those are professors.
Yes.
So you have to be at a receiving end and you have to just show that I am just going to you and I just seek your guidance. But when you go to ISB alumni in the interview, I think you have to just do something. Do not ask difficult questions. That is one thing.
Yeah.
So do not is very important. And what you want to do is completely up to you. Yes, this is the finest question that somebody can ask. You should always try to just take them down the memory lane because those memories are always precious for
Yeah.
everyone. So that was the most important question that you can ask to leave the interview process.
Yeah. And it's
So
also one of the only things that is for sure in your hands. The
absolutely.
remaining part of the interview, like even though you have some clarity around what your interview will be, you still cannot put a pin on it. Here,
Yes,
you will get 1 minute in the end to ask one question, and you can prepare exact wording of that question in advance. So you should take full advantage of that.
okay. So in the form that I actually gave to the people, so many people posed question that what should I ask as an answer to this question, that do you have something to ask us, and now you already have answered that question. And for everyone, I think you need to understand that there are so many guidance just floating here and there that you should ask some very intelligent questions that are difficult to find answer of over the internet using chat gpt, this and that. Don't fall into that trap. I think the simplest thing is to ask the simplest question that the interviewer can answer and can take joy in answering.
Yeah, exactly. You
right?
don't
So
want to leave the interviewer in a state where they're like, oh, I couldn't answer a question to the person who I am interviewing. Like,
yeah,
you don't want to put them in that back foot. You have to flatter them a little bit. So give them an easy question, but a meaningful one.
absolutely, absolutely. So at the same time, I think I'll just digress a little bit. But there is another candidate, Himansh. Nishant knows him because he has been his junior from the college,
Right.
undergraduation college as well. So Himaksh actually was the person who left the interview not at a positive note. Because there are some people who are also targeting that YL, and Himaksh is a person who actually applied for YLP program, Young Leadership Program. It was the last batch of it. And he was given a comment rather than a question that, I think you don't need an MBA to achieve the goal that you have. And he was so worried that, sir, I don't know, when I was just leaving the room, then they told me this thing that we don't think that you need an MBA to achieve the goals that you have. So, and the result is that he actually got converted. He received an offer from YLP, which means you don't have to be very, very judgmental with exactly the last note. There are so many other aspects that they have looked at. Some interviewer might feel that probably to achieve your goal, the MBA may not be needed. And probably the interviewer said so because he was very young. He was just passed out from the college. So probably the interviewer wanted to see something more clarity to understand that MBA is actually needed. So this is one of the problems that some candidates of YL people face. And I don't think that there is any reason for them to panic even if their interview is ending at a note where the interviewer sometimes says that maybe you don't need an MBA right now. You
Yeah.
need to have clarity that why do you need an MBA and what exactly MBA is going to add in terms of the value in your career and career acceleration. So
Yeah. No, in
uh,
my opinion, like if you do come across a panelist who is asking you this question very bluntly, there's first of all, there's nothing you can do about it. Okay.
yes,
You got a panelist who wanted to ask this question, so he will ask this question to you or the next person. So you
correct,
have to take it in good spirit. Just give your one line or two line reasoning why you think an MBA is right for you, and have faith in the fact that 80% or probably something of your application is already submitted.
absolutely.
This is the last stretch. Even if it goes a little bit here and there, if you have a strong application, everything will be fine.
Absolutely, absolutely. So now coming once again to the interview questions where we begin from. In interview questions, primarily that means the questions are going to be about your CV, about your essays. Even in the essays, this time the essays have changed significantly. Now there are so many questions about the intellectual experiences that people have. That means it is possible and expected that now the interviewers would be interested in digging more about your intellectual experiences that have inspired you to come for an MBA, right? But yes, short-term goal and long-term goal are absolutely unmovable. There will certainly be questions about them, and you have to be absolutely prepared about them.
Yeah.
So, see, okay, I think there are some more question and answer round. I think that question will come over there. There is also a question that they sometimes ask, what exactly is your plan B if you don't make it to ISB? I think the answer is already there. It's absolutely fine to just tell them that there are certain other alternatives as well that we are looking forward to, because you also need to show your value that ISB is not the only destination that can get you to the goal that you are looking forward to. Yes, ISB is the best platform that you have to make them feel, because it's true as well. But that's not the only platform, because there are so many people who never did MBA and who have reached to a position that so many MBA people actually aspire to get to.
Yeah.
Right. So that is how it is. There are so many different kind of questions. I think I have 3 slides in which I have captured 3 different interview experiences that this one, I think we can already see what kind of personalities do you not like and how do you deal with them, right? There are some other questions as well which were actually bothering me. What if they ask you some behavioral question, some situational question? Nishant, did they ask you any such question? I mean, a question in which they were giving you a hypothetical situation that suppose if you were the CEO of that company or the marketing head of that company, what would you have done? Something like that.
So in my particular interview, I think something like this did not come up.
Okay.
Um, I would say it's unlikely that they will digress into hypothetical situations, but nevertheless, I think it's not very different from the short essay that you write right before the interview.
Yes.
Just you have to maintain the same sort of approach and sanity.
Hmm.
And of course, case to case basis, the question could be hypothetical, but related to your work ex or
Mhm.
related to your goals.
Hmm.
In those cases, they will probably expect a more concise answer.
Okay. There is this one question that is very difficult to answer for any school. The reason is that the responses start becoming very, very similar for every respondent. The question is, why ISB? So, see, there are so many information available online, and I believe that every serious candidate must have gone through all those kind of things. How would you say what exactly are really the distinct factors which are not as well known as are the part of the ISB culture or ISB curriculum?
Got it. So one thing that I would recommend students not highlighting in this question is that ISB is a 1 year program. I don't think it's a good idea to highlight this as a point for why ISB, because ISB is not built around the fact that it is a 1 year program. That's not what makes ISB what it is. Instead, what you should be doing is, so this question is something that you can completely research before going into the interview. Almost everybody gets asked this question. So it's
Yes.
almost like a scripted question at this point.
Yes.
So what helped me was I related my short-term goals, my long-term goals to very specific things within ISB.
Mhm.
Not like, oh, ISB is the best school for entrepreneurship or ISB is the best alumni network. Like all of that is very general. We know that.
Mhm.
I I took names of exactly the professional clubs which I wanted to join.
Mhm.
I took the names of other programs that come to ISP, like iVentures, like
Mhm.
iSprouts,
Mhm.
where entrepreneurs specifically come and build products on campus. So
Mhm.
I mentioned that I will be able to get an opportunity to interact with those specific people. So that was one reason for me why I wanted to do to ISP. The other reason that fit in really well with my story was that I had been trying to build products and build my own company for the last 1 year. I had, haath pair mare bahut idhar udhar, but it was a very unstructured approach.
Mhm.
And ISB is a school that is known for frameworks. ISB is a school that is known for providing like very specific business structure. And that is one of the main skills I wanted to gain here was if tomorrow I'm going to start my company again,
Mhm.
I should know the exact process to follow, the
Mhm.
exact structure to follow, the kind of people I need to reach out to, the kind of considerations I need to have. And those things come out of the courses that you take at ISB. So
Okay.
you study finance, you study strategy, you study marketing. So you get to know a lot more about how those worlds work. And as an
Mhm.
engineer, it made a lot of sense for me to learn those things before I, went into my startup. And from whatever background you're coming from, say you're coming from consulting or banking or marketing, align your long term and short term goals with this question. I think that will help a lot and go into detail. Like, this is the course I want to take. This is
Okay.
the professor who has been working in this research area who I want to work with. These
Understood.
kind of opportunities I'll get at ISP. I think it's better if you go more granular.
Okay. Okay. I think now people should take the note of several very important things that Nishant has just mentioned. I'm just going to ask some more specific questions around the same things because there are some people who just keep mentioning that I want to join the 4 student club. Is that even possible realistically?
Join the
Join 4 different clubs. I just want to do everything. So
I
how
mean,
much is possible?
not really. You can't do everything at ISP. I think, in fact, it would be well received if you told the interviewer that I know you can't do everything at ISP because they have been through the same thing. And that is why your clarity matters so much. Because when the first day you step onto campus here, 15 different things will be thrown into your face.
Hmm.
And if you are someone who does not have clarity around what they want to prioritize, you will end up being in the bottom of the class because you don't know what to do, you don't know where to spend your time. So if you can get that through in your interview, like say one or two clubs you're really passionate about that match with your work ex, or talk about a few courses, or talk about these excursions. So we have, like I mentioned in the beginning of the call, something called the ELP, which is the experiential learning program, which is
Okay.
a 4-5 month consulting, sort of like an internship with big industry players. So for someone who wants to get into consulting background, if you point out that I would be able to work with a real client on a consulting project for 4 months, that is a big sell, right? You will be
Yes.
able to make a pivot into that industry. You will be getting prior work ex. So these are the kind of specific things that I'm talking about. Like even now, if I think ki 10 years later, if I will be taking ISB interviews, I will want people to be as specific as possible because I have seen everything in that 1 year. So
Absolutely.
don't give me that general ज्ञान कि बेस्ट स्कूल है, अच्छा नेटवर्क है, डाइवर्स क्राउड है, मतलब सबको पता है वो चीजें.
Yes, absolutely. So this year I have sent about 12 or 13 application of ISB. In almost every application, I have made sure that people actually incentivize from this experiential learning program and somehow relate with them, because
Yeah.
that is where a real practical learning lies. But okay, but let me just ask one more specific question that sometimes people tend to get confused with. Should people be joining the club or intend to or show their intent to join the club where they can contribute, or should they intend to join the club from which they can learn?
Hmm.
What exactly is exact scenario?
I think you can go either way,
Okay.
but for a stronger answer, I think it would be the clubs where you can contribute.
Very good.
Because see, the thing is like you will get to learn these things anyways. If
Hmm.
not through the clubs, through the courses, there are like for the first 3 terms of mandatory courses. तुम्हें चाहे जितनी नफरत हो इकोनॉमिक्स से तुम्हें पढ़नी पड़ेगी. There are no two ways about it. Like I struggled a little bit with finance courses in the starting. I didn't have any finance background, but now I'm like comfortable with them because ठीक है
Yes.
time हो गया है.
Absolutely.
So and also ISB looks very critically. Obviously, you want to join the college, but
Mhm.
also why should the college take you? What are
Absolutely.
those 2 or 3 things that you are bringing to the cohort? Because
Hmm.
every person is at ISB because they can contribute to people around them. So
Right.
in my particular case, I had been a product manager. I
Hmm.
knew that a lot of people leaving ISB want to join PM roles in big companies. I had already done that before ISB. So I made it a point in my interview to say कि I will join the business technology club and I
Hmm.
will help people prepare for PM interviews come placement season.
Hmm.
That is a very specific value add that I am doing to my cohort.
Yes.
Similarly, I had been a first time entrepreneur. I had seen the pitfalls, I had seen all the problems and all the good things as well. So, we have something called the Entrepreneurship and Venture Capital Club here. I had mentioned very specifically that
Hmm.
for all the aspiring entrepreneurs that come to ISB, I will help guide them on how to set up their first company
Okay.
because I had been through that jurisdictional like problem area and I knew how to deal with it. So, very specific value adds, but very relevant things.
Okay. Okay. So that is well understood. So about the interview, I think we already have touched upon major areas. If there are some questions, I think people can just post in the chat. Otherwise, I'll just go with another aspect of our discussion. I think we should be arriving at the specific questions that people will be asking. And in the meantime, there are so many people who are worried in the world at a stage where you were last year. What is the scenario of GEM candidates in terms of admission?
Um, so ISP I think is a little better off at least compared to ABC in terms of how like rigorous they are towards GEM candidates. So for example, 50% of the batch at ISB is general engineer males.
Mm-hmm.
The expectation from GEM candidates, I think obviously on an analytical or quant side is higher. So
Mm-hmm.
as a GEM candidate, you are expected to give the GMAT first of all. Don't give the GRE if you are a GEM candidate because I don't know. I don't think that makes a lot of sense. Second thing is try to maximize your GMAT score as much as possible because that is an edge you have and you have to prove it. Because you
Okay.
are an engineer, because you have a strong quant background, you need to show that in proof.
Okay.
Okay. And the last thing is that I think the GEM candidates here are not just good engineers, they're also like really rich, experienced people. Not in terms of like years of work ex only. Of course, there are people who have like 10, 12 years work ex also. But
Mm-hmm.
even the people who are around my age category who have 3 to 4 years of work ex, they have done like good work ex in good companies. They have done some side projects also, maybe they have something about their profile that appeals to the ISB adcom. Like maybe in my case, it was my entrepreneurial experience, right? For someone else, it might be that they're like really, really good at analytics. Or for someone else, it might be that they've contributed a lot to a specific cause.
Mhm.
Like you have to understand that you need to bring an edge to your profile.
Yes.
So think really hard about what you think your edge could be, and that should come through your essays and into your interview.
Okay. Okay. So I think we will just move on to then question round, because I think major aspect we have touched. Do you feel that there is any part of this stage 4 that we have missed on? I think we
No, no.
touched essay discussion
Yeah,
as
we've
well as
covered most of it, and then through these questions also, I think जो
I
बचा
think
खुचा
yes,
होगा सब cover हो जाएगा.
yes. So let's just read through these questions and then understand. I'll just add wherever I think
Sure.
there is a need. So there is your picture to the left corner. You can
Yeah.
see. Okay, so do you think the curriculum in classroom is actually good enough to help us grow as leader, innovator, or at least help us think like one?
Yeah, this is a very easy one. 100% the kind of curriculum that ISP has is going to make you a completely different person.
Hmm.
Like it's going to expose you to so many different subjects. It's going to expose you to the best faculty. Like the kind of faculty we have here, you will be like in there are classes where I have just like मेरा मुंह खुला है और मैं बस प्रोफेसर को देखना पढ़ाते हुए, because the way that they are teaching, the kind of depth, the background they have, it's so amazing. Like I'll just give a small anecdote. I had a class last term for launching software startups,
Hmm.
and the professor, his name is K Ganesh. So the guy's background is that he has been a serial entrepreneur. He has had 4 startups, all 4 high exits. He is one of India's most prolific angel investors. And every year we try to estimate his net worth based on his public holdings. And
Hmm.
this year we arrived to a number of close to 2000 crore rupees.
Wow.
So that guy is coming to ISB and spending 20 hours on a course teaching you. So you can imagine the kind of unique insights and real talk that you will get in the classroom.
That's amazing.
So again, this question is a very easy question. 100% you will be a much better leader and innovator once you do these courses here.
Good. Sure. Let's move to the next question here. What factors do you consider as part of the first impression of candidate to consider that they are ISB material?
Matlab, I don't think ISB material as such is a very widely used term. I think someone who is consistent, in my mind, is more ISB material. If you have not, and I don't just mean that you've been scoring well in 10, 12 and all. I mean like consistently doing what you want to do. If it
Okay.
could be coming in from your work ex, it could be coming in from your projects.
Hmm.
And I think ISB gets a lot of reapplicants every year also.
Yes.
There's zero shame in being a reapplicant. I myself was a reapplicant in ISB last year, and reapplicant essay is one more space for you to prove that you or give more part of your story that other people
You
don't.
become better over the time.
Yeah, to show how you've improved, right, as a person.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I think just if one factor I had to say would be consistency.
Very good. So I think I'll just add to that. To become an ISB material, I think first of all, you have to show that you bring a growth mindset. You are learnable, you are coming to learn. And third thing, that you are really hungry for the growth that you want to get, and you have absolute clarity about the goals. I think if you have these 3 things, then it absolutely serves the purpose. You definitely will be considered an ISB material. I think there is no need to extend beyond that. These 3 things cover almost all parts of it.
Agreed.
We are going on to the next question. Any specific thing that reapplicant should prepare for? Because now you just mentioned you have been a
Yeah.
reapplicant.
So reapplicants, I think you have an excellent opportunity to show your growth in the essay. Okay, be like as specific as possible you can there. Like for me, I had considerably improved on my GMAT score, and I mentioned that very specifically. Yeah,
Hmm.
I jumped from X percentile to Y percentile in the last 3 years. I took the GMAT more seriously, and this was my improvement. So that I got that space to show that I had taken it very seriously. And also, depending on how much gap you have between your applications, if you are applying, say this year you don't get through, you apply again next year, you'll have to be a little bit more careful about the growth you show, because एक साल में मतलब बहुत massive growth नहीं आएगी. uh, be a little realistic about it. At least maybe your goal clarity could be better. If not, like executional excellence has increased over 1 year, it's very difficult to make those leaps within 1 year. But your mindset has become better. You've got to know more about the program, you've talked to more people, and any improvement you can quantify is welcome over here.
Okay, so there is one more program. I think somebody has asked this question in the chat, Rajat Malik, that why ISB PGP and why not iVenture? I think this question comes from the perspective that if somebody is looking forward to building his own company and comes from that entrepreneurship background and with that mindset, then why ISB PGP and why not iVenture? Is there any difference?
Yeah, so this was a question that I had specifically prepared for the interview as well, because I was expecting it actually. I didn't get asked, but I was expecting the interviewer to ask me, "Ki, why are you not applying for iVenture instead of ISB?"
Yes.
And my answer was that, look, there are 2 or 3 aspects. One aspect is that iVenture is specifically focused on launching your startup.
Hmm.
Will go in from the first day onwards, you will just focus on launching that company, scaling that company.
Mhm.
Whereas the PGP program is like a learning experience. So I wanted to learn about marketing. I wanted to learn sales. I wanted to learn operations. I wanted to take a year to learn these things. I didn't want to just focus on the execution part in 6 months, which is what IVI is, iVentures Immersive. The second part was, I think the kind of network that you make in the PGP program is way wider than the iVentures program. The iVentures, if I'm not wrong, is a 50-60% cohort, and the PGP is an 800% cohort. So from the networking angle, I think I highlighted it, and from the previous angle, which was the learning aspects of it. And yeah, I think, look, if you are genuinely someone who just cares about launching the startup and wants to take that off the ground, then might as well join iVentures. That's a great program too. If you are someone who is thinking of it from little bit more long picture, कि मुझे पहले सीखना है, मुझे स्ट्रक्चर समझना है, मुझे लोगों से मिलना है, ठीक है, फिर मैं स्टार्ट करूंगा, या उस क्लैरिटी के बाद मैं डिसीजन लूंगा, then there are enough reasons to go to the PGP, I think.
Yes, absolutely. I think you already have answered the question that PGP is basically inclusive of so many different kind of disciplines, whereas iVenture focuses on a specific discipline. That is the primary reason why people should go for PGP program. There are so many candidates that I get from even from the family business background. I always tell them that don't go for the family business program for the best understanding of how the business should be dealt with, because you have to just go into the market where there are so many other competitors which are operating very, very professionally. So you also have to understand their mindset, and PGP gives you the exposure to that mindset that you have to use throughout your life and scaling your venture, even if you're getting into your venture.
Correct.
Right? So
And I think for most candidates, anyways, this question won't be asked. It's only for those who have entrepreneurial work ex or have that part mentioned in their profile. Like normally, they won't ask you if you're coming from a consulting background, why you're not applying to IVI. It's not relevant for you.
Absolutely. I think somebody asking another question. I will quickly answer that. Do they ask anything on current affairs, like something related to my hobbies? So if something is related to your hobbies, I think they can definitely ask you. Right? But if you're talking about any current affair, like what exactly is happening in ESG scenario, I think this is a question that can be asked to a person who has mentioned that I am working on ESG or I am willing to work on ESG side of
correct.
the business. Right?
Current affairs is generally not part of the interview.
Yes, CK is not the part of it. So I just wanted to quickly answer that. Let me take you to the next question. How to answer why MBA and why now? I think we already have discussed this question, so we can just skip it.
Covered this in length.
Yes. So this is one question somebody has asked. What is the annual intake of foreign students? Is there any eligibility requirement and prerequisite? Any other important consideration for international applicants?
I don't think there is any like eligibility requirement or prerequisite. There are a few foreign students in ISB, not many, like single digits for sure in my batch.
Yes.
And I don't think there's anything different about the interview process for foreign students. So
historically, yes, historically, I have been seeing the batch profiles of ISB, and in the last decade, it has never gone more than 1% in the ISB batch. The international, and also people need to understand that even when they say that these are international candidates, many of them are Indian origin candidates who probably are carrying the passport of some other country, or maybe from nearby countries as such.
Then it's not really foreign. I mean, I wouldn't count that as foreign.
So yes, but there is a different consideration for the foreign experience as well. For example, if you are bringing a global expertise, global exposure, then you definitely are given some weightage, in my opinion, because this year, even the third essay of ISB is all about that. What are the intellectual experiences that have built your worldview? So a worldview will be broader for the person who has seen better part of the world, who has met with people with different ethnicity, different nationality, different geographies, who has actually met the diversity. So I think in that context, it might definitely add value to the profile, but in terms of admission process, there is no significant value that it adds in terms of your chances of admission.
Yeah, I don't think there's any advantage or disadvantage. Like it's
Yes,
the normal process. But
it's good to have.
this topic got something to my mind. If you are a normal candidate, like an Indian candidate who's applying, and if you have any foreign experience, do highlight that. Like it's
Absolutely.
highly valued. If you have
Yes,
global exposure, even if it's for a
yes,
short stint. Yeah,
absolutely.
piggybacking
So
on the
to
question.
stand out, then use this experience to stand out from the crowd, because not every candidate brings that kind of an exposure, right?
Agreed.
Sure. Let's go to the next one. What do they actually look in the candidates? I think we once again have already answered this question, right? The progressiveness of the candidate, the clarity about their goals. Already answered that.
And it really helps if you have a strong track record. A lot
Yes,
of people at ISB, again, they're from like the best colleges here, but they're also like very, very sorted about what they've done in their life. You can see that there has been a lot of planning involved. So if you have that already in your profile, then you have a plus point with it.
yes. So here is another question. I have appeared for an interview once. I think exactly your case. Somebody has appeared for YLP and wanted to know specifically the interview experience from the reapplicant perspective if you're going for PGP. Then I don't think that they differentiate you from any other candidate, even if you have been the applicant.
Yeah.
Yes, it is rather an opportunity for you to show your growth over the past 1 year or 2 years that you have spent after the first application. If you are able to convince the jury that, yes, I have actually been growing over the time and I've been improving myself just to become more ISB material, I think you have done the justice with your
Yeah.
profile. That's all is needed.
Yeah. The
Right?
only way you should think about it is that everyone else has 1,000 words. I have
Mhm.
1,300 words to convince them. So I
Yes.
am at an advantage. Just think of it from that lens.
Yes. That's really good. So let me go to the next question. How to approach a situational behavioral question when they do ask marketing case studies?
I don't think they ask you marketing case studies in interviews. If you are from a very strong marketing profile, they might ask you things related to your work ex,
Yes.
but there's going to be no like proper like case study. It's not a cooperative interview, as in like it's not a job interview, so it's a little different.
Okay, I think I'll still answer this question. Somebody has asked this because there have been very few instances in which people have been given a case study that suppose now XYZ startup is not doing very well. If you were become the strategy consultant for that organization, what exactly is the kind of a strategy you would devise? What would be your approach to
Okay.
finding the solution of that problem? So in my opinion, if somebody who had this question is already in the part of discussion right now, they should understand that for the interviewers, your answer does not matter. What matters more to them is your approach to the question, your ability to disintegrate all the facts and understand that you actually are capable of understanding the real cause of the issues. If you can figure out whether the problem is in operations or in marketing or in finance or in holistically, and you can assign the weightage to what problem is actually the first and foremost problem that needs to be worked with, I think you already are showcasing your analytical ability, and that is what is being tested in the interview. So if there is any situational behavioral question is coming across in the interview, remember this thing, that your ability to approach the question is being judged and not your answer. In the case study discussion that often happens in the MBA classes, it's not important what kind of solution you are coming with. The more important is what are the basis of that solution that you are presenting to the class for that particular problem that you have identified. Have you whether have you looked at that problem from various aspects or not? So your ability to just look at the problem from every single aspect, looking in the exhibits, looking into the different charts, looking into different numbers, and also understanding the culture of the organization to address the problem, tells the interviewer that you have the ability to actually become the strategy consultant that you aspire to be, which so many people these days actually aspire to be, right? So if anyone has this question, I think this question is already answered here. Now, next, is ISB suitable for the candidate with significant years of work experience? It's a very important question, especially for the people who have, let's say, about 10 years of experience. What would you say to those people? Should they go to IIM Ahmedabad or Bangalore or ISB if they have the choice?
So the comparison here is between the PGPX program and
Yeah,
between ISB, right?
between ISB.
So, in my batch currently, I'll tell you. So we have a division between candidates with less than 6 years of work experience and greater than 6 years of work experience. The greater than 6 years work experience candidates are known as laterals. So a lot of special companies come for laterals for placements as well, where they hire you on like more senior positions because obviously you have more work experience. So in ISB, out of 800 people, there are around 90 to 95 people who qualify in the laterals category.
Okay.
So 1/8 of the batch, roughly 12.5% of the batch, would be greater than 6 years of work ex. Now, I think ISB is probably the best school to come to if you have 10 years of work ex, because there will be a lot, like there will be enough people with the kind of work ex, and also the environment is very supportive. So I have people in my class who I work with who are married. I have people who have kids and who are living on campus in studio accommodation.
Yes.
So the environment, first of all, is really supportive if you're living with a family or even with your significant other. And the kind of placement opportunities that these guys get for the lateral candidates are also good. Like it's not that you have to compromise and sit for junior positions that people like me or 3-4 years experience people are sitting. You will get like senior positions, you will get higher roles. Specifically, companies will come for those roles.
Okay.
So I think between like PGPX and ISB, I would consider it to be better because the cohort is way bigger. Like in PGPX, you have 150 or 200 people max. Over here, you have 800 people who you build a lifelong connection with. So that aspect is also, I think, something you should consider.
Yes, I think I'll just add to this by another example from real life. There was a student of mine, Pranjal Saxena. He had 6 years of experience when he actually took GMAT and applied for ISB as well as IIM Ahmedabad. So I was working with him, and he actually converted IIM Ahmedabad PGPX program as well as ISB. So there I gave him some suggestions. He actually seeks suggestion from so many different places, and finally he decided to join ISB. And just Nishant, for your information, I think he has been a gold medalist. He has been brilliant candidate. He actually spent 6 years in Madhuti, and he was actually very, very good candidate. He actually got placed into the McKinsey as well as Bain, and he actually joined Bain, but after that he left it very soon and joined the third organization. So he had the best placements also from ISB. He came to me to share his, wedding card just after this PGP. And then I asked him this question. So I asked him that now that you have done MBA from ISB, what do you think? Was IIM a better choice, or you feel the ISB is better choice? And he said, undoubtedly, ISB has given me so much more than IIM Ahmedabad could have given me. Yeah. So that was his personal experience. Because and so what the point that I'm trying to bring in here is, it's all about your personal choices. If you're looking for the larger network, then ISB is one of the finest places. But with one of the finest places, another insecurity also comes in, that now you are competing with 800 people for the placements, whereas in IIM Ahmedabad, there is only hardly 150 people actually in the batch. So there are different preferences. Some people actually feel like they want to sit among the younger people because there is so much to learn from the young people. Whereas there is second type of people who feel like that, no, I have 10 years of experience, so I would like to just sit with people who are like-minded about 7-8 years of experience. So that is all about the personal choices, I feel. So people who have joined ISB, none of them has ever said so far that anything else could have been better than ISB. So that is where I just want to stop at this point and take to the next question. How did you identify if you're getting late? I think I already have taken so much of your time, Nishant.
No, I think till 10:30 it's fine, as you had scheduled.
Yes, there are some more questions left. I don't know. I think I compiled about 20-25 odd questions. So let's just go through this. Information and situation about the experiences and placement of first batch of PGP YL. Do you have any input about this? Because there are some.
PGPYL's first placement will be next year, no? Because it's a 2-year program. So
Yes.
there is no placement stats for this batch yet. But what I do know is that ISB is working extremely hard to get the best companies for PGPYL. Also,
Hmm.
because it is the first time they're launching this program, they have to prove that it is good competition for IIM ABC,
Hmm.
because ISB doesn't really compete with any other college. So they for the internships that have been going on for the BGP right now, all the big companies have come, which I have heard of at least.
Mhm.
So rest assured, the PGP will do well. I don't see why ISB will not be able to pull it off. I mean, that's what I've heard so far. Placements are yet to come, so we'll see the stats when they come.
Very good. So let me just also share with you a humor that came to me from somewhere. I prefer to discard it, but still, because I have the opportunity to clear it with you. Somebody was saying that ISB is now focusing on YL so much that probably they'll make YL program as their flagship program.
I don't know. I don't think so. Actually, there's one insight I can share with you.
Huh.
So the dean had told us during our orientation week in one of our first interactions
Hmm.
that the PGP program now,
Hmm.
not now as in like this year, but in the future,
Hmm.
is going to stay roughly the same. Like if it's 800 people right now, it will maybe come down to about 700 or 650, but and the difference will be added to the YL. So
Hmm.
right now it's like 800 plus 150, right? 150 YL, 800 PGP. The
Yes.
sum will remain the same. Maybe the YL will become 200 or 250 to match like ABC's batch sizes,
Hmm.
but that will not decrease the PGP batch size. Also, like PGP is the program that made ISB for the last 25 years. If they
Absolutely.
stack on PGP, then it's no
Absolutely.
point of the there's no point of doing anything else. I don't think that should be a concern.
Absolutely. But yes, there is one more very good insight that has come from this discussion, even the nonsensical question, that ISB admission is going to be rather more selective
Yeah.
if the number of seats of PGP are going to reduce in the future by about 100 units or so.
Yeah, they could. I think that's what. Again, these things are like very not
It
nothing
doesn't
is
stay.
written in stone. It's just stuff we hear in college and कि आगे जाके ऐसे होगा वगैरह. But
Yes,
I think again it shouldn't be like really a point of consideration.
understood. So there is another question. Also, I'm getting an opportunity to join ISB 6 months startup program. I venture, I think.
Yeah, this is I venture immersive.
You
Yes.
already have addressed this
Yeah.
question. No need to spend time. Does interview location have any bearing on how the interview can go?
No, I don't think so. My interview was online. A lot of my friends had the interview offline. Doesn't
Okay.
matter.
Okay. So, but here, let me just share my opinion. I feel I always encourage people to actually go for the physical interview. The reason is I feel that in physical interaction, even if you make a mistake, you have a time to make it up. And your gestures also explain so many things that you cannot explain virtually. So if somebody has an opportunity, I always encourage them to go for the physical interview session.
Actually, I
And
would say for the first few rounds,
uh,
physical interview is better because most of the candidates will have physical interview.
yes,
You are applying in round 3. So what happened in my case was I selected physical interview, but I got an online interview.
okay,
Because what happens is that there are not that many shortlisted students in round 3 for them to send the panelists to every
understood.
city.
Understood.
So हाँ उस case में it worked out, but yeah, like if you get the option, it is my personal opinion also that you should do a
Yes.
physical interview.
And I just want to share another opinion. You can call me biased for that. I feel like interviewers in Delhi are more cool people than interviewers.
I don't know. This could be very controversial.
Yes, yes. The way I feel is that Delhi alumni are, you know, they are more fun. That's what I have heard from most interview experiences. So I feel like there is a girl who is actually in Lucknow. I just told her that no, it's best that you come to Delhi and then you just give your interview here in Delhi only. I think that would be a good experience for you to come. So that way. But anyway, like I said, it's strictly an opinion. It has nothing to do with any factual information so far. So here comes the next question. How do you maintain a balance between rambling too much and conveying multitude of ideas you have? while answering the questions in interview.
So the key to this question is like practice. If you have written down the answers to the questions that you are expecting. So when I was preparing, I had a list of at least like, I think it was 40 or 60 questions that were like common MBA interview questions that I had written down and written down the answer for.
Correct.
I had spent like 2, 3, 4 days just answering those 60 questions and writing down the answers so that I knew, so that I would exactly avoid this, which is rambling on too much about things you don't want. Because if you are given on the spot questions, you are likely to digress here and there. So
Yes.
अगर आपके इंटरव्यू में 2 या 3 क्वेश्चन भी ऐसे आ गए जो आपने प्रिपेयर करे हुए हैं, you can be very succinct about them and you can immediately give across a good impression that you are prepared. So the key for this would be practice यार, मतलब जितने क्वेश्चन प्रैक्टिस कर सकते हो लिख के, verbally, सोच के. When you read your resume, I did this activity where I read my resume from top to bottom, which I had submitted in ISB, and I picked out a question from every line. कि यहाँ पे ये पूछ सकते हैं, why did I join Expedia? Yeah, why did I do a startup? Why? Another question that comes is, why are you willing to pay 40 lakh for an MBA today? Like they asked me this question. And they were like, this is the seed amount for your next startup. So why are you joining ISB paying 40 lakh? So I had an answer prepared for that. Good. That's why I didn't panic in that situation.
No, yes. And it's very, very important to rehearse these questions. So many times people feel that I know everything about myself. But when it comes to conveying everything that you know about yourself is very hard because you have to put it in a structure, in a structure that the other person can appreciate. Therefore, it's very important that you rehearse it number of times, and that is where actually interview preparation comes in, right? So do not take it lightly that you know everything about yourself and you'll be able to communicate it properly. Maybe you can, but most people actually fail to communicate everything about themselves in a best possible manner. And that is because they have not rehearsed it well. So it's best that you sit down in front of mirror if there is no one else to ask the question, and then you see yourself and then give the delivery of that interview. I think you'll be better off.
Yeah, just very quickly, I'm just answering the question in the chat. Rajat, my answer was along the lines of, even if I got the 40 lakh to invest in my startup today, if I did not have the structure or an idea how to properly run the company, it would be a waste. So this was a way for me to tell them that I'm putting this as an investment into my future that will pay me dividends later on. Just very quickly, we can move on.
Good. So here is the next question: how to handle when there is a lot of cross questioning? But you said there is not a lot of cross questioning that happens.
Unless you say something wrong or like you lie about something, they won't cross question you much. If they catch an obvious lie, then I mean, first of all, don't do that. They're very smart people. They'll pick you apart in minutes. If there is a lot of cross questioning, just take a back foot and maybe just very calmly tell them what you actually meant to say. And try to get off that train of thought, I think, because you have 40 minutes. If 30 minutes are gone in cross questioning, फिर तुम अपनी story convey कैसे करोगे?
Correct.
So, yeah, just try to do that.
So next is, somebody asked, this is a good question. So many people have such a question. If I'm interested in a function switch from tech consulting to, let's say, strategy consulting, how can ISB help me with this transition? And how do I justify my planned switch to the interview panel?
So I don't think the interview panel will ask you specifically how you plan to make that shift, because that is what ISB is for. It gives you the platform, it gives you the companies that you are eligible for to make that switch. But in terms of skill building, you can say, yeah, I come from a tech background, but when I study these strategy courses at ISB, when I join the consulting club at ISB, when I do the ELP with a consulting company at ISB, that is how I will get that strategy consulting experience on my CV, which I will then use for my placements. Because placements everyone can apply to every company basically. There is some companies which have an age bracket, like I mentioned, 6+ years and all that. But you can apply agnostic of your background. So you can pivot. Like a lot of people here are pivoting from consulting to product management. A lot of people are pivoting from finance to consulting. So I mean, pivots are very much possible.
I think just to add to your answer, I would say that people should know that what are the transferable skills that they are bringing. It's like you have to fill a complete package. So you have to tell them that you are bringing some skill set, and the other, the rest skill set that can be built through the resources that ISB is providing. And you need to have absolute clarity about those resources, which will actually give you that impetus to build the remaining skill set. If you can convince the interview panel about the same thing, that you are bringing those transferable skills from your past experience, and then you will gain the remaining over here through XYZ resources that you're getting at ISB, I think you can convince them that yes, it is achievable and this transition is definitely pretty much practical. Now, moving on to the next one. Yes, somebody asked about this question. I want to get some insight on the scholarship program provided by ISB. What are the criterias and how should I prepare my CV, essays to get this? I'm planning to write GMAT next year, something like that.
Yeah, so there is a need-based scholarship which you can apply for specifically.
Yes.
But the rest is through the normal process. You apply to ISB. Once you get accepted, then the AdCom team will look at all the accepts and then figure out कि किसको scholarship देनी है merit वाली. So merit scholarship के लिए you cannot apply separately. It's part of the same process.
Okay, good. And there are need-based scholarship. I think if you go on ISB's website and the page of scholarship, I think you'll find a very nice detail about every kind of scholarship and how exactly can you proceed towards that. So I would suggest
diversity based also. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm sure it'll be there on the website. I haven't looked into this.
No, diversity based scholarship is actually the scholarship for the people who are coming from the military background. So there is a specific amount of scholarship for that diversity that they're bringing.
I think there's also a scholarship for single female child, something like that. ऐसा भी कुछ है.
There are numbers of diversity based.
It will be there. I'm not
on website, everything is there. I already checked it, and this detail is very nicely put up there on their website, right? Okay. The next, this one is a good question. I quit my job in July due to some health reason, and I don't get a new opportunity before the ISB interview. Will the 6 to 7 month gap and related questions affect my chances of getting in? Will it be considered negative during the interview?
If it's for health reasons, I don't think anyone can look at it negatively. So don't worry about that.
Yes, I think if you're coming with this kind of a gap, you need to have a very appealing explanation that how exactly did you spend that gap, right? If you have absolutely enough information to fill that gap, it's fine, right? Anybody can fall ill, anybody can have health reasons, so it's absolutely fine.
Along the same lines, I would also discourage people from quitting their jobs to give the GMAT. That is not something I particularly encourage, because I think that may get some negative connotations during the interview, because they can upright ask you ki everybody else has done a job and cracked the GMAT. Why have you quit your job to crack the GMAT? अगर absolutely necessary है तो मत करना, मेरा ये opinion है.
So it's a very good point. Yes, it's a very good point. There have been students I get who say, I am working with KPMG or Deloitte and my boss demands that I spend 15 hours a day on my job. How do I do this preparation? I tell them, I don't know that. You need to learn to manage your boss, manage your work and your GMAT prep. But if you leave your job, there is no guarantee that that amount of time you will be able to spend efficiently on the prep. So I think if you are going to be a multitasker, be a multitasker at the moment and don't leave the job. That is the best thing. Leaving the job puts an additional pressure on any candidate, right? So not leaving the job is actually the best.
Some people I know have been able to take a sabbatical for a couple of months.
Yes.
So if you are in that good rapport with your leadership, maybe that's something you can consider.
Absolutely. I think we are approaching to the last questions. Does one need to prepare for the general knowledge or logic-based questions? General knowledge, no. Business knowledge, yes. You need to know what exactly is happening in the industry related to your work experience or the aspiration. If you know about this, you need to know thoroughly about how exactly AI is changing this, the business ecosystem completely. So, because this is one thing which I feel that every interviewer is interested in understanding, that how much progressive the candidate is to understand the intervention of technology into any business processes, how the technology, AI especially, is disrupting so many business things. So it's a good idea to just know about your own background from this technology point of view. Anything that you want to say, Nishan?
It's got a very interesting question to my mind, which you can think about as when you're preparing for the interviews. Is that with the advent of AI, is it really necessary to do an MBA right now? Because we have studied about this in one of our courses, how AI is disrupting MBA.
Hmm.
If I was an interviewer, I would ask this question. I want
Good.
to know how you are thinking about it. So just for anyone who's sitting for interviews, you can look into this. It's a nice question.
Good. Now, the essence of interview and what are they looking for? Confidence, street smart answers, eloquence, or something else?
I mean, confidence, 100%. You need to be confident. If you've rehearsed your answers, if you practice the questions well, you will give smart answers.
Hmm.
Vocabulary, I would not put too much pressure on it. Like, if you can naturally fit in good vocab into your answers, that's great. But don't try too hard. That's not the essence of the interview. Like,
Correct.
it's not about the English, this very nuanced words that you are saying. Confidence, 100%. You can't go into an interview. You have to go into the interview thinking you are already selected by ISB. That was my mindset.
Absolutely. You just have to be you. And second thing, if you can be little more, my only suggestion is be a little witty.
Hmm.
That's always a good thing to carry an interview. If you can just keep the atmosphere very light, it always works in your favor. Now, I think that's it. That was the last question. So
Yes.
with this, to all the people, I'll say thank you. Nishant has his LinkedIn profile. Anyone can reach him over LinkedIn. If anybody wants to reach me, you feel free to reach me as well. I have my details as well available here. And this video will be put up on my YouTube channel as well, which is by the name GMAT Insight. So at this stage, I think I'll say thank you so much to everyone for staying awake and staying alert for the next 1.5 hours. And Nishant, thank you so much. I just told you that I want you for half an hour and I took 3 times as much time
No,
actually.
no, I was happy to do it because I also know the kind of things that are going through your mind
Uh,
before the interview day. I was in the similar situation just few months back.
uh,
So I'm happy to help anyone reach out to me on LinkedIn. If I can take the time out, I'll try to help you. And yeah, all the best. Just keep a positive outlook. Just remember the key to cracking ISB is that there is no secret sauce. There
yes,
is no trick that you can pull out of the hat and get admission. It's diligent, hard work, and consistency that will get you into this college. And everybody here is of the same boat. So just focus on yourself, focus on the journey, and one step at a time.
absolutely. And if anybody needs any advice, any professional advice on writing essays on this interview prep, you can just reach me out. I'm available here. You can reach me through multiple channels. I think that's it, Nishant. Thank you
Awesome.
so much once again. And
Thank
it's
you for the
been a
opportunity
pleasure.
and all the best, everyone.
Thank you. Chalo. Good night, everyone. Thank you so much. Bye bye.